Good afternoon, Honourable Edith Dumont, our Lieutenant Governor, and Chief Justice Tulloch, Chief Justice Morowitz, and Chief Justice Nicholas. I'm really thrilled to be here again today with, I want to say, credit goes, you've named a number of the people in my department that are really doing the heavy lifting, the creative work, and making things move forward. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out my Chief of Staff, Patrick Schertzer, who's here, and my Director of Litigation, Anthony Galea, who also work diligently with the department and with your offices. And, you know, the leadership team under Deputy AG Corbett, and he's only here because he's not here because he's fighting the fight in estimates, trying to make the next thing happen that we'll talk about at next year's opening of the courts. But I want to open by sharing a message of thanks to everyone here today, whether it be the associations, whether it be my federal colleague who we're doing some good work with, whether it be the Law Society, and of course the Chief Justices in your offices, and the Associate Chief Justices, and the Justices of the Peace, and the Associate Justice ASJs. There's just so many people pulling in the same direction. It really is inspirational to work with everybody. Now, we've been steadfast partners through modernization. You've heard some of the accomplishments, but it's clear that our focus is going to remain. We're going to improve access to justice in Ontario. We're not there yet. We're not done yet. Nobody's pretending that we are. But boy, we have done some good work so far, and there is more to come. And I think, and I saw former Chief Justice Mazenov here, and I thought she does not miss my Sunday afternoon texts saying, can we just fix it? Look, we have to make this. We have to embrace technology. We have to embrace modern processes because people in the 21st century expect and deserve it. Now, at last year's ceremony, it's been talked about this year again, the court's digital transformation. I spoke about it last year, but I want to put a number to it. It's not only groundbreaking, and for a system our size, as Chief Justice Morowitz said, it's a $166 million endeavor. And it's not a concept, it's in motion, and it will operate next year in Toronto in 2025 because we're all working together. Now, the really interesting thing, when we talk about collaboration, we often talk about collaboration between MAG and the Chief Justice's offices. But this court digital transformation is collaboration between the different levels of courts. This is going to be one system for two levels of court, and that is historic in Ontario. It's something that's only come about, quite frankly, because of the leadership of Chief Justice Morowitz and Chief Justice Nicholas, and the experience of Chief Justice Tulloch and what he's done at the Court of Appeal. It's really just remarkable, and people around the world see it. We're talking to people, and they're, quite frankly, a little bit jealous. Now, virtual and hybrid hearings and online filing is just another element. Again, I'm going to put a number to it. In 2020, we got $65 million to put into that system to move things along. We've had well over 5 million hearings so far, which is quite incredible. And we have 130 specially equipped courtrooms, and there is more to do, absolutely. Now, that's not a small amount of hearings, but it's been made possible by the modernization efforts, and it really is something to celebrate. People can now access justice services without taking time off work, leaving their house, arranging childcare, traveling arrangements. You know, the hearings save Ontarians time and money and saves them a lot of stress. A lot of Ontarians don't walk into a courtroom like this. Their experience with court is intimidating, it's stressful, and it comes at one of the toughest times of their life. And so anything we can do to make it better, we have to do. And it fits in big cities, small towns, northern and Indigenous communities. The ongoing work is going to be informed by our commitment to reduce barriers and increase access to justice. And that's why part of our efforts to modernize the court system and make it easier for Ontarians has also expanded the filing services. We're now up over 850 different documents and forms that can be filed through the Justice Services online. But you can't file things if you don't have broadband. And of course, people can only use them when it's there and it's reliable. And so to ensure connectivity and reduce disruptions, back in June we announced a partnership with the federal government to make a combined investment over $97 million to connect 18,600 homes in the north to high-speed internet, including 2,500 Indigenous households. And beyond that, our Starlink initiative is nearly complete. I mentioned Starlink last year. We now have 49 satellite units installed in 27 fly-in communities. We're embracing the technology of tomorrow to help us today because modern solutions actually work. Now, every step forward and every piece of our plan will bring Ontarians closer to achieving the goal of bringing high-speed internet access to every community across the province by the end of next year, by the end of 2025. And it'll be delivered by Canada's leading fiber-centric rural broadband providers. Now, Wi-Fi in courthouses. There's little things on the front of the desks here. That's new. We're making it easier to interact with the court system online because we know that people need to attend a courthouse in person. When they do, they need access to the outside world. And so we're improving the internet capacity in physical courthouses. We've simplified the process through QR codes on the tables and in the hallways. We're making it easier to access the services, whether you're at court, whether you're at work, or whether you're at home. And I won't say too much about the Civil Rules Review, something that Chief Justice Morowitz and I are very proud of, and I can tell you I am super happy. He's as impatient as I am, and we are driving the committee, and they are doing some phenomenal work. And he's mentioned a few of the highlights, and all I can say is trust us, it's good stuff, and it's moving fast. There's more to come. And I want to thank all the people involved in that. But I also want to thank the Civil Rules Committee, the existing committee, and the Family Rules Committee, who are continuing to do phenomenal work to move us forward, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of today. And I've spoken a few times recently, and I canvassed the room, and so I'm going to canvass this room. Has anybody actually served a document by telegram? Because we wipe that out now so that you can do it by email. And so that's the low-hanging fruit, but there's some really good culture change stuff coming. Now, sustainability, I've spoken about how we're doing some things to make our system accessible and affordable, well-building capacity, because it has to be sustainable, to keep pace with our growing province and ultimately to make sure our communities stay safe. And a key pillar is to reduce pending cases across the system. It was mentioned that our government announced over $29 million to appoint at least 25 new judges to the Ontario Court of Justice. But the judges can't do the work alone, and so along with that comes hundreds of staff, whether it be Crowns, victim service workers, court staff, and all the people that work along the pipeline. Now, it's in addition to $72 million that we secured in 2021 and 2023, and this is not one-time dollars. This is an infusion, a permanent infusion into the system. The justice system is receiving more support from our government. I'm not making this political speech, but than it has in a long time. And it's sustainable long-term funding because Ontarians deserve it. Now, in addition to that, we're also increasing the number of associate judges and court support staff at the Superior Court of Justice. Now, as most of you will know, that Superior Court judges are appointed by the federal government, and they have done a tremendous job catching up. Minister Virani, I've told him that directly, and I really do appreciate that for the operation of our system. But we've supplemented it at the provincial cost to add new associate judges because they play a critical role in our system as well. And this is all really good news and the valued investments to make the capacity grow, and it'll help us prevent serious cases, gun cases, sexual assault cases, all the things that we need to deal with to keep our community safe and to ensure justice for victims and their families. We're also taking meaningful action to ensure the courts have the necessary supports for new judicial appointments across the province. And this year alone, we've hired a significant number of those full-time, permanent, and court staff through another nearly $6 million in additional annualized funding, meaning ongoing, but we're still recruiting. If you know somebody, you know somebody's child, you know a neighbor who is looking for a dynamic, interesting job like no other, we're looking for talent. The court system has changed. The skill set has changed. And so we're looking for that talent, and we're continuing to hire. And I'm confident the new investments will support the courts in reaching the capacity they need to hear the cases in a timely and sustainable manner. But our court system cannot operate without one other piece, and that's legal aid. There's been a lot of progress on the legal aid front as well. We've been working closely with Legal Aid Ontario to support changes that will help ensure private bar lawyers continue to take their excellent work through certificates. And I think I saw David Field here, and so I want to thank him for his leadership. Thank you, David, for your leadership in doing these many things. Now, some of the changes coming into effect, the tariff reform increase, the number of hours allocated under the hourly tariff, and block fees for certain proceedings. This is in addition to the implementation of an increase to the tariff of 5% per year over 3 years, each year over 3 years, for a total of 15 and a bit. For those who actually do math, it's not 15, it's a little bit more. And we're also changing the block rate and fees for those certificate lawyers in all areas, criminal, family, and immigration and refugee law. So that is, we need to make sure that we're retaining and getting the excellence. Now, we're also investing in the legal aid clinic system to make sure they can recruit, attract, and retain lawyers, and to support the fundamental needs of low-income Ontarians as demographics shift. So it's two things happening there at the same time. And so some of that has been out in the field, and I want to thank the clinics for the awesome work they do out in all parts of our province. Now, I have some other good news to I was going to say share, but I'm going to hint at. There's one more branch to legal aid. There's a third leg on that stool. So we, of course, we have the tariff lawyers, we have the clinics, but we also have duty counsel. And one thing that we need to be moving forward on, and we are all working together on this, in collaboration with LAO, we're working together to deal with the financial threshold for legal aid eligibility. And through work with some of the associations, we realize that it's not just increasing the threshold for duty counsel, because if you don't increase it for the certificate lawyers at the same time, you're creating a dynamic that is not healthy for the system. And so we're working closely. We hope to have more news soon, but it's on our radar. And again, legal aid and the rest of us are working on it. This will help judges and Crown attorneys deal with cases more efficiently by working with experienced defense counsel. We'll continue to support legal aid to deliver the client-focused, sustainable legal aid services and promote access to justice across the province. Now, the investments and initiatives that I've spoken about are not only about improving the system and the efficiency of the system, they're ensuring that we're meeting the needs of a growing province. And it's been an absolute honor over this past year to work with each of the Chief Justices. And as I was listening to each of them, I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm supposed to get back to them on that. But I know that my team's all over it. I know that they've got it, and we're going to continue. And it is a sprint, and we're going to sprint along with you. and I don't want to leave the impression that the work is done to anybody. I can tell you we're just as dedicated as we were when I got here, and we're going to move together in a forward motion. Thank you, merci, and Megwich.